So, in light of yesterday's video that I made on Twitch cheering, Twitch seemed to have made another blog post trying to further explain what cheering really is, which if you watch yesterday's video, I'll leave a link for it there in the description, as you will need to watch that first before watching this. But after I made that video, and 7 hours ago from when I'm making this video, Twitch have released a brand new FAQ where they've answered some of the most popular questions and they've tried to clear up what cheering actually is, which is what we asked for in yesterday's video, which is a bit more clarity on what cheering is and how much the broadcasters are actually making from it. Those are the two kind of big overall questions that we wanted answered. So, just like yesterday's format, I want to go into the objectives first and say what Twitch have put out in their blog, and let's go through the facts, and then after that, I'm going to give my thoughts, and same as yesterday, if you've already read the blog, you're welcome to skip a little bit more forward in the video and see what I think about it. So first of all, Twitch state in the article that yesterday they launched a feature called cheering, and that the announcement raised some legitimate concerns from the community, and that they'd like to take the time to answer a few of our most important and frequently asked questions. The first of those being, does Twitch plan on making bits/cheering exclusive? Now what they mean by this is Twitch bits or cheering going to get rid of tipping? Is it going to become the only way that you can support broadcasters? Is it going to become the exclusive method that you can provide support? And they've actually answered with this. This is one of the answers that I'm happy with, and I didn't think that this would be a thing. I didn't think that cheering would be getting rid of tipping, so to speak. I always thought it would be a secondary measure, but they have actually answered up for the people who were confused, and they've said that they have no intention to remove or block any third-party services or tools, and they understand how important these services are to a broadcaster's livelihood and to create interactions between broadcasters and their communities. They've also said that they want to make cheering into a completely new value to the Twitch community, and that their goal is to take your feedback and make it a critical component to a broadcaster's success. So that's the first kind of point that they've made. Something a little bit minor that a few people probably had concerns over, but minor issue. Tipping is still going to be a thing, and cheering is a completely secondary measure. The next point that they've touched on is how exactly does cheering support the partners? Now, this was the meaty question. This was the big question that we all had on our lips, saying, okay, look, we're not going to really, a lot of us aren't going to throw support, and we're not going to spend big chunks of money on supporting people if we don't know how much of that money they're actually receiving. So Twitch have released a statement here that says the following: Twitch provides participating partners a share of the revenue that Twitch receives from bits, equal to 1 cent per bit used to cheer for them, subject to certain terms and conditions such as our bits acceptable use policy. In addition, we provide broadcasters with moderation tooling, and we've hired full-time staff to identify fraud and protection against chargebacks. What you see today is the very first version of cheering, and there's a lot more to come. In the not too distant future, we expect bits will also be available through promotions and as rewards for activities on Twitch. Broadcasters will receive the same amount per bit used to cheer regardless of how users acquired the bits. We are also working to provide additional benefits to broadcasters you cheer for. This is an early beta product, and it's likely to change significantly as we receive more feedback from the community. So they've addressed here that basically we know now the split between Twitch and the partners, and as always, you are always welcome to skip forward if you want to see my thoughts on that. And here we have another pretty big question, which is why weren't all partners included in the beta launch? Now, this is a really important question because I pulled up yesterday and said that Twitch didn't need to test their billing system. So let's see what they have to say. They've said, this is a true beta launch. As such, the main goal of the launch is to find bugs and learn about the feature in a live user situation. The partners chosen include a variety of channels with a diverse range of audience size, type of community, and content style. We also chose channels with a significant amount of audience crossover, giving viewers more opportunities to cheer on multiple channels. Finally, we chose US-centric partners because the feature isn't localized and appears only in English. Localizing cheering for the beta would make it harder for us to react to bugs and deliver new features. We are working around the clock to improve the product, and when it's ready, to expand the beta to more partners and include partners from every region. So, you've hit a part of the video now where I've gone through every single point of the Twitch blog that they have put out today. And now I'm going to let you know what I think in response to that, because a lot of the questions that I posed yesterday have actually been answered here, which is, why weren't all partners included in the beta launch? And also, how much does cheering actually support the partners that you are cheering for? So firstly, we're just going to go from A to Z. Does Twitch plan on making bits/cheering exclusive? And here, this wasn't really a concern that I had too much, and I'm glad that cheering is going to stay as its own feature, and it isn't actually going to remove tipping. We're just going to move straight on to the next point. How exactly does cheering support the partners? Now, Twitch have said that Twitch provides participating partners a share of the revenue Twitch receives from bits equal to 1 cent per bit used to cheer for them. Now, a lot of people have looked at the figures and said, oh, I'm purchasing 100 bits, but it costs me $1.40 to do that, so Twitch are taking 40% more? No, they're not. When you actually go through the math and you do the equation all the way through, you see that out of the total $1.40 that you say, 28% of what you totally pay goes to Twitch. And the reason that it's 28% and not 40% is that if I were to give you $1.40 and you were to give me 40 cents back, 40 cents is not 40% of $1.40. It is instead 28% of $1.40. The case scenario in which it would be 40% is if I gave you $1 and then you gave me back 40 cents. That would be me taking 40% from you. But no, you actually pay 28% to Twitch for the first 2 tiers, which isn't great. It's not quite as bad as the 30% figure that we were being quoted yesterday from random people on Twitter, but 28% is what you pay for the kind of normal amounts of 100 or 500 bits. Now, at the top tier, if you were to say, okay, I'm going to buy the total amount of bits that I'm going to spend throughout the month or the year or whatever it may be, or just a lifetime amount, and if you were to purchase $308 worth of bits and then start sending that to broadcasters with the 12% discount, this is equivalent to Twitch receiving about 18.8% of what you have paid. So closer to 19%, but it's definitely a lot smaller than the 28% of the original 2 figures. I've got a picture up on screen where you can see all of the different percentages that Twitch receive and the different percentages that the broadcaster receives, depending on which tier you decide to buy with. Now, commenting on this is going to be a little bit strange. I've been broadcasting on Twitch for 2.5 years, and throughout that period of time, I have used different services to receive tips. A lot of people and myself started out by using a website called StreamTip, and StreamTip used to take, I think it was 1 or 2% of what we earned. I'm not entirely sure on the figure, don't quote me on that, but it was quite small in regards to what a company would normally take. And then we moved over to Twitch Alerts, where Twitch Alerts originally took 1% from the broadcasters, and it was then bought out by Twitch, where Twitch knocked that figure all the way down to 0%, and then actually for the first 3 months of when they took it over, rewarded us with 1% additionally of what we would be donated over that 3-month period, which was really awesome. I don't expect it obviously to be a permanent thing, but it was fantastic when it was around. Now, to come from that system and say, right, we have 2 systems available to you. We have cheering, which is Twitch bits, and we also have tipping. And tipping means that at the highest tier, if you were to just buy that and slowly kind of tip it to lots of different broadcasters with the feature enabled, you are giving 18% or closer to 19% of everything that you have spent to Twitch, and you are giving the following 82% to the broadcaster. Now, this isn't in itself, without comparing it to tips, this isn't in itself a bad cut. To say that you will retain 3/4 of the revenue isn't bad. And if hypothetically in the future, the people who currently are tipping through the Twitch alert system stick to the Twitch alert system, and only additional and new people are now using the Twitch currency system through it being newly available and readily available, and also a new and exciting feature, then this means that Twitch will receive more revenue and the streamer will also receive more revenue in turn. The big question here is, what does this mean for the viewer? I feel like a lot of people have been focusing on what this means for the broadcaster or what this means for Twitch. For the broadcaster and Twitch, my honest conclusion from this would be that the broadcaster and also Twitch will both be receiving a higher revenue turnover, as I believe that people who have been using the tipping system will not stop using the tipping system for what they see is a system that costs them more money to support for less. And I feel like that old time and old school viewpoint isn't going to be something that gets changed just because cheering has been introduced as a new system. What I will say though is that cheering opens up a new system to people who have never tipped to broadcasters before, and possibly offers them a little bit of incentive to support the streamer. If Twitch isn't forcing the viewer to use the new cheering system, then overall the viewer still has a choice, and the viewer can either choose to stick with the days of old and stay with Twitch alerts and stay with the old school tipping system, and everything has remained the exact same, and either new users or old users, as unlikely as I think it may be, can switch over to the cheering system and decide to use that as well. But in the end, the main cost comes down to the viewer. The broadcaster, I feel, will be receiving a similar amount of money, and especially with how the microtransactions have been split up. So for example, if you want to tip $5, you have to pay $7 for that. Now, Twitch have stated that they expect bits to be available through promotions and as rewards for activities on Twitch. Broadcasters will receive the same amount per bit used to cheer, regardless of how users acquired the bits. We are also working to provide additional benefits to broadcasters you cheer for. Now, this is good news. This means that if you receive a total amount of a certain amount of cheers, maybe they could unlock extra emote slots for you, which would be absolutely fantastic for smaller broadcasters. So the payoff is actually reasonably good, provided the benefits are also good. If it allows smaller broadcasters to achieve things that bigger broadcasters can only achieve, and we can do that through cheering, but we realistically cannot achieve in the near future due to our size, then I will get behind this feature and say that this is great. Granted, it will be really good when Twitch comes out with the news of what those additional benefits are. Now, the other thing that they stated here is that bits will be available through promotions and as rewards for activities on Twitch. So I can imagine that this means if you watch a certain promoted broadcast, or if you partake in a poll, or if you win maybe an official Twitch raffle in a Twitch chat, you are rewarded with bits where you can then go and spend those bits and give those to broadcasters. But I think overall it's going to be very hard for me to come out and say this system is completely awful or this system is completely terrible. If people are able to be generated free bits where they can give those to broadcasters and broadcasters can gain revenue in turn, then this feature is fantastic. And as said before, if this means that I receive 25% more cheers in comparison to tips, then overall I haven't lost out, and I've only gained in terms of chat interactivity and allowing the chat to interact with me as the broadcaster in new and exciting ways, you could say. Now, the other point that we can get onto is why weren't all partners included in the beta launch? Now, I would like to point out here that this is incredibly poorly worded. I did a little bit of digging on Twitter today and also a little bit of defining and trying to find out what they meant by the words US-centric partners. Now, I looked through the list of the people who were involved in the beta of the Twitch cheering system, and as it stands, there are actually broadcasters from the UK and from Canada who are involved in the system. So this doesn't mean that they are only including US partners. What it does mean, though, is that they are only choosing countries that speak, let's say for now, US or speak American, because the feature is only available in English. Now, if you ask me to reword this, I would say we chose primarily English-speaking countries because the feature isn't localized and appears only in English. But I will note, just for PR reasons, saying US-centric implies that you have only included American partners and then foregone all of the Canadian partners and all of the English and British partners, which actually isn't the case. So overall on the Twitch cheering system, I guess all that we can do now is wait and see. Wait and see how much users are actually given, how many benefits broadcasters are given from receiving bits, and how many more bits participating broadcasters receive as a whole, and overall how much this system benefits everyone. I have high hopes for it. I hope really that what comes from this is that people who have never tipped before are given the opportunity to be able to support their broadcaster in some way by obtaining free bits, by participating in events. But overall, we'll just have to see what happens. Thank you for watching.